Well, good evening. Welcome to your home gatherings this week. I hope you've had a good week, and I just hope that you're growing together as a group. And we'd like to encourage you to do things as a group. So if you have an opportunity to do an outreach together, we want to remind you, go ahead and do that. Take that opportunity. Maybe you don't know what to do together as a group and you're looking for just some ideas. Hey, reach out to Dave, and he can help you get those plans. So leaders, go ahead and reach out to Dave, and he can help you with maybe getting some outreach ideas planned and just some doing things together. So this week we're jumping into Philippians chapter 3. So your homework was to read Philippians chapter 3. Just take a few minutes here and go ahead and stop the video and read chapter 3 together, and then ask these 4 questions. What is God saying? What does it mean to me? What does it mean for others? And then how can I apply it to my life? Just stop, read through the chapter, and ask those 4 questions together. Well, great. Welcome back. Hope it was a great discussion. These chapters, this book of Philippians really is a deep book that Paul wrote. And like I said at the beginning, this book is written when Paul is most likely in prison, facing certain death. I believe it is the last letter that he wrote before his death. And the focus of it is all about joy. But some of the things that he writes in here is pretty deep. Today, I just want to jump into just a passage here and make a couple comments in Philippians chapter 3, verses 10 and 11. It says, "My goal is to know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his sufferings, being conformed to his death, assuming that I will somehow reach the resurrection from among the dead." It's an interesting passage there that Paul writes. And the thing that he's really writing about is that Jesus came to lay the foundation for our eternity. And Paul wants to experience that eternity that's promised by Jesus. And he doesn't understand it all. He doesn't have it all figured out. In fact, he goes on to say in the next part of this passage, this chapter, exactly that. I don't have it all figured out, but this one thing that he's doing is he's reaching for that prize that has been offered to him by Jesus. Well, that prize is eternal life, and it has been offered to each and every one of us. And we should all strain and work forward and to think about how can we live closer to God. That's why those 4 questions, they're so important when we ask them, is what is God saying? And then what does that mean to me? You know, what does that mean in my walk with God? What does that mean to me? And it means to me in this passage that if Paul, probably at least one of the top 5 most faithful people we see in the New Testament, I put him up there probably at 1 or 2, but we'll call top 5. If he is straining and struggling and just really asking these questions and trying to work out his faith and trying to get to this point to understand what it means to follow Christ and to experience that resurrection, that eternal life that's promised to us, how much more do I have to wrestle with that? I mean, I am here, and you know, I think back to Paul and in his life. One of the big events in Paul's life was the stoning of Stephen, the first recorded martyr for Christ. And the whole concept is that Paul is there, and his one job is to make sure that Stephen is dead, that he is stoned to death. That's his job. And it talks about people laying their coats, their cloaks at the feet of Paul. And I always wonder, what was Paul thinking in that moment? Now, here's what I believe. I believe that Paul was at this point in his life where he's starting to question some things. And then Paul sees and experiences this stoning of Stephen. Now, we know that Stephen preached the gospel to his last breath. Saul was hearing the gospel as he was watching a man be stoned to death. And I think that might have been an aha moment for Paul. And I think we all have aha moments. What do we do with them? How do we interact with them? How do we grow from those aha moments? I mean, each one of you have had aha moments. You finally you get it. You understand something, and that's in life as a whole. You understand. It was an aha moment for me when I was a kid, and I'm trying to learn my multiplication tables, and then it dawned on me that anything multiplied by 10, all you have to do is put a 0 at the end. So I don't have to work and do all the long. No, just add a 0 to the end of it. So how old were you when you learned that? Were you today years old? Yeah, if 250 times 10 is 2,500. You just add a 0 to the end. So, but there's always those moments. There's always those things. And how do we interact with them? That's the goal of these groups, is that you can come in and you can work through these things. And, these things that Paul's writing about, this goal about the eternity, and he's speaking in a sense that I think he knows that he's secure, but he also knows that being a follower of Christ takes work. You don't just say a prayer, sit back, continue living the way you're living. So just think about that this week, and maybe just wrap up your time together just talking about that. What are some of the struggles that keep you from following Christ? Or maybe you're following Christ and maybe it's something that's hard. What is hard about following Christ? Just have a discussion about that, and just unpack that a little bit in the final couple minutes you're together. And then I don't know that I remind you enough, but then your homework for next time is read Philippians chapter 4, and we'll jump into Philippians 4 and look at that. So I just want to encourage you with that. You've got a purpose. You're living out your life. There is an end goal, and you should be leaning into that. So have a great evening, and we'll see you back next time we get together.